start with the keyword finally. Now in the last class I told you about final and finally. The keyword final was a different thing. Finally is a part of exception handling. Now when you write a program, there has to be a block of program which will be executed in all circumstances. Whether an error occurs or not, whether a function is terminated abnormally or whether the execution of the function takes place normally. In all circumstances, a program should get executed. Such blocks are defined inside the finally block. Let's say you must have learned files in C. Now, when you work with files, there are two basic operations. One is opening of a file and one is closing of a file. When you open a file, it's your moral duty to close the file at the end of the program. Now, this closing of file has to be defined inside the finally block, so that even if the program execution is normally executed or the program execution is terminated abnormally, the file should be closed in all circumstances. Such logics must be defined in the finally block. Another example. Let's say you're making a phone call to your friend. After you click the disconnect button, the phone call has to be stopped. It has to be disconnected. Now, whether you click the disconnect button or whether due to some network issue the phone call got disconnected or there was some issues, the phone call has to be disconnected properly. Such logics must be defined in the finally block. What I'll do right now is I'll define a program where I'll have three separate functions. One function will be terminated because of an error. One function will be terminated with the help of return, and one function will be terminated normally. In each of the three functions, I'll try to put the finally block for you. Let's see what happens. I'll define the simplest of class, and here I'll write down three functions for you people. The function 1, the function 2, and the function 3. Each of the functions that I will be defining will be obviously called from the main program, so I will be writing down public static void of main, something like this. Here inside this function, I will do this today. And over here, I'll use the explicit throw statement that we wrote yesterday. Throw, let's say this, new arithmetic exception. This is the text. Now what I'm doing is, inside the function fn1, I have defined an explicit throw statement. Now as you know, when throw takes place, you are bound to go into the catch block. But like yesterday, this function fn1 does not have its own try catch block. So obviously the function which is calling, that is the main function, can involve the catch block. So we'll handle it inside the main program. In the finally, just to show you the output, I'll be writing down the system.out.println inside the finally block of fn1. And just copy down this for the next program also. Here what I'll do is just to show you this. In the second function, I'll do this. System.out.println inside the function fn2. And I'll put some return value, return 10, and as the return type has been specified as integer. Third function, I'll just write down this inside the function fn3. and this I'll allow it to get terminated normally. See, this is terminated because of the throw, this is terminated because of return, and this is terminated when the statements are exhausted. Each of the function I wish to have this try and finally, so even here I'll put a try and finally. The try block and finally. And here inside finally I'll put down inside the finally block of fn2. Even here I'll write down the try and finally part. Each of the functions is going to be called from the main program. Now, as you know, main is defined as static, so each of these functions are defined as static. Function 1, function 2 again as static, function 3 again as static. So I have three programs with me, three functions fn1, fn2 and fn3. Now fn1 is terminated because of the throw statement, fn2 is terminated because of return, and fn3 is terminated normally. But each of these functions has got a finally block. Just to show you the execution, I will call these functions from the main program by writing fn1, fn2 and fn3. But remember, this function fn1 involved an error. It threw an exception, that is arithmetic exception. To handle that, I'll have to do this thing for fn1 itself, not for fn2 and fn3. I'll write down a catch block and I'll write down arithmetic exception. Let's keep it simple. Now when I execute this program, I'll show you the program again, but when I execute this program, see what is happening. I went into function 1, finally of fn1 got executed. I went into fn2, finally of fn2 got executed. I went into fn3 and finally of fn3 got executed. This finally got executed every time the program was executed. So it's a block which is executed in all circumstances. You can see fn1 with a throw statement, fn2 with a return for termination, and fn3 which is executed in all circumstances. So this is the objective of finally. The code which must be executed in all circumstances has to be defined inside the finally block. Be assured that this finally will be executed in every circumstances, whether an error occurs, whether return is executed, or whether the function is terminated normally. So this is a program which shows you the finally block. First function, second function and the third function. Now moving back to applets again. I have explained you applets many times, but let me again tell you applets. Applets are different from application programs. We are talking about applets. I have told you application program means a program which involves the main function. A program which is installed on the client's computer to get the output. But applet, I have explained you, is a program which is not installed on the client's computer. An applet is basically present on the web browser. I embed it, I hide it, I put it inside the HTML code. This HTML file, when the client requests for the HTML file and when the output is displayed on the client's browser, inside that browser, my output gets displayed. Program or the Java program or the Java class is present on the web server, whereas the output is shown onto the client's computer. Client's computer means in the web browser, the client requests for an HTML file. My Java program is embedded into the HTML file, and hence when the HTML file gets shown in the web browser, this applet is also visible over there. So I'll just give you a brief demo of it. I've written a few programs for you. See. I'll again write down this. This is my first program about an applet. So for applet, I'll have to import the applet package, and in that I have got the class called as applet. For graphics, I have explained you this. For graphics, I need to have AWT package. My class will extend an applet. An applet program compulsory has to be public. I have told you why it has to be public. The applet program will be present on one computer and its output will be visible to another computer, and hence the class has to be public. If I don't define it as public, it won't be visible onto the client's computer. So be very clear while you are defining an applet. Inside this applet, there are many life cycles of applet where I have these options. I have init, start, public, void, stop. These are the stages in the case of an applet. Public, void, paint, where all the display related logic is defined, and finally you have this destroy. We have learned this program in the online class. These are the stages in the life cycle of an applet: init, start, stop, paint, and destroy. When the first time the applet is shown onto the web browser, init takes place, start also takes place. Then any painting related logic, the logic that is displayed or the output that is displayed on the applet, is defined inside the paint event. If you minimize the applet, stop takes place. If you again normally open your applet output, start takes place, along with that again paint takes place, and finally when you close the applet, the destroy event takes place. Init and destroy works as constructor and destructor like C++. Init and destroy. Right now I don't have to use these functions, they are not compulsory, I'll just remove them. I'll remove destroy also. Right now what I need are only two functions, init and paint. Now obviously people should understand that init and paint are two functions defined in the applet class. What I am simply doing is I am overriding these functions. Now I will show you something new about applets. You can set the width and height of the applet when you are embedding it in the HTML file. That width and height can be known in the program. So for that what I do is I will define two variables, width, and I will define a variable height. Something new for you people. Dimension d equals to size. You learn two new things in this. This size is a member function of the class applet. Size gives or returns the width and height of the applet. You must be remembering the class called as point. The class point had two parts, x point, x and y dimension. Similarly, dimension has got two parts, the width and height. Point class has two data members, x, y. Dimension class has two data members, width and height. The class dimension is also a part of the AWT package, and hence today I didn't write AWT.graphics, I simply wrote AWT.star. Size returns the width and height of the applet that is available into D. What I'll do now is, in my variable width, I store d.width. In my variable height of my class, I write down d.height. So when the first time applet is loaded, init will take place, and what init will do is it will generate the width and height of the applet. Whatever the width and height has been set in the HTML file, that width and height will be stored into the variables width and height. Last time inside this paint event, we used this function g.drawString. Here I wrote a string, here I wrote the x coordinate, and here I wrote the y coordinate. Now today what I will do is, instead of drawString, On the applet, I am supposed to draw a line. So the function instead of draw string is draw line. Obviously, when you draw a line, you need to specify 4 coordinates: x1, y1, the starting point, and x2, y2, the end point of the line. So what I'll do is, I'll do this width. So you can imagine, you can guess how the line will be drawn. Whatever the applet is, it will start drawing the line from the 0, 0th point, and it will draw it till this particular point, which is width and height. I'll just show you the execution of this program. Obviously, I'll show you this inside an HTML, inside an applet viewer instead of an HTML file. So let me save this program. The class graphics is important for me. Now see, when I try to execute the program by Control 2, it will lead to an error, main method not found, because this is not an application. When you execute a program from class using Control 2, that is running a Java application, it will always search for the main function. Now as you know, in my applet there is no main. So instead of Control 2, this is what I'll do. I'll press the Control 3 option, which stands for Run Java Applet. Here I put Control 3 and see. This is not an applet, remember. This whole window is not an applet. The white part inside this window is basically the Java applet. The window is basically an application called as Applet Viewer, which is used by the programmers to check the working of the applet. The actual applet will be displayed or visible inside the web browser. Right now I am showing you the output inside the applet viewer. So see, we drew a line from 0, 0, we went till width and height. I wish to draw another line from this point to this point. Let's see what is the coordinates of this, then we will see the coordinates of this. We need to find out the x and y of this point. X, as you can see, is 0. Width, height is the whole height of the applet. This one. X is the whole width, height is 0. So I need to draw another line. Draw a line and see what I am doing. 0, height, width, 0. Zero comma height, width, 0. Can you understand? 0 height. This is 0, height, that means this point. Width and height that I am giving is width and height is again 0. So see, if I execute this program for you by Control 3, you can see another line getting drawn over here. Then I wish to draw a line from the center, a horizontal line from the center to this particular point. So again I need to find out the xy coordinate, I need to find out the xy coordinate. Here x is again 0, y is height by 2. Here x is the complete width, height is again height by 2. So let me try writing that line. G dot draw a line. X is 0, this is height by 2. X2 is the complete width and this is again height by 2. See. Similarly, let's think about drawing a vertical line on the applet. Vertical line on the center of the applet. Now for that, I need to draw it from here to here. X is width by 2, y is 0. X is again width by 2, but y in this case would be the complete height. So what I'll do is, I'll write down one more thing, G dot draw line. And here I'll be putting width by 2, height is 0, again x2 is width by 2 and height in this case would be the complete height of the applet. Now, did you note one thing? Every time I'm trying to execute the program, it's asking me whether it's a part of some HTML file or not. But right now, as I told you, I'm showing you the outputs in an applet viewer. So we are not taking the help of the HTML file. That will take at a later stage. Secondly, let us make a few changes in this program. Let's do one thing. From this particular point as the source, I wish to draw 10 lines on this end of the wall. Imagine a bulb which is emitting light from this, and the light is being displayed onto this wall. I wish to draw 10 lines over here. Source is same, that is x1, y1 of these 10 lines would be same. What I need to change are the values of x2, y2 everywhere. Now it's a part of common sense. When I am drawing 10 lines on this, every time the width will remain same. What's going to change is only the height. So I'll just comment out these things and I'll make a small change in my program. Let us try to understand. I define an integer variable I equals to 0 less than equals to 9 I plus plus. See what I am trying to do. G dot draw line width by 2. First I'll put 0, height by 2. 0 and height by 2 is this. 0, height by 2. And these 10 points are to be calculated. And each of the 10 points width will be same. What will change is the height. So I'll put a simple logic over here, and that is this I into height by 10. Let us say the height is 100. So I need 10 blocks. So I'll say I into height by 10. My I is 0. So initial height would be 0. Next time it will be height by 10, 10. 10 into 1 is 10. Then 10 into 2. Then 10 into 3. Then 10 into 4 and so on. If I execute this program, let's see what happens. If I put one more value over here, the line will be added till the last. So I can make a small change in this program. Instead of 9, I can put 10 and you can see a perfect projection of light from one point to other point. Similarly, I wish to do another part. From here, I wish to project it on the second part. It's very simple. x1, y1 remains same. I need to find out x2, y2. x1, y1 you can guess. X is width, height is height by 2. Here I need to project 10 lines. So I can write down the logic over here itself. G dot draw line. This is width, this is height by 2. And to project it onto the opposite side, the width would be 0. And again I will be writing I into height by 10. You can see the output. One is projecting from left to right, another is projecting from right to left. Why not do two more things? Why not project from top to bottom? Top to bottom, I need to put 10 lines. So for that, x1, y1 is same. You can guess x1 is width by 2, y1 is 0. And over here I need to find out 10 points. Here all the 10 points, y would be same. What will change is only the value of x. So the same logic that we wrote over here, I can put it over here. G dot draw line. x1, y1 is same. So that would be width by 2 and height is 0. x2, y2 mein, I need to change the width over here. So I will say width divided by 10 and height obviously will be same. You can see the last part also. So from top I have projected to the bottom. Similarly, let's do the last part. Let's project from the bottom to the top. Now to project from the bottom to the top, x1, y1 is same. What we need to change are the values of x2, y2. So based upon the last part, I'll write down it directly. Draw a line. This is width by 2, height. This is the point at the bottom over here, center of the bottom, and at the top I'll be writing I into width by 10, and again I'll put a 0 over here. See the output. Now do all the changes based upon your requirement. I've just tried to play with lines over here. You can also do this thing. Try playing with different lines. Try taking your own coordinates. The simple thing is, while you're drawing a line, you need to give the x1, y1 and x2, y2 coordinates. Okay? So this program should be executed. You should run this program and try doing something based upon this. In the next class, I'll again play with the concept of applets, and I'll try to put these applets into work in the actual environment. Okay?